The majority of people around the world have probably had some kind of interaction with a Jehovah's Witness at some point, be it on their door, maybe in the street, maybe you grew up with one as a friend, whatever the case may be. Perhaps like me, you were raised as one and then decided to go your own way, or for whatever reason aren't one anymore. I've been thinking about doing this video for a while because to me this is an issue which not enough people talk about. And even though you could reapply this fundamental issue and line of questioning to pretty much any religion, and you'll see why in a second, in particular I want to apply it to witnesses, because very few organisations will claim as staunchly as witnesses do that they stick to the Bible as being the one true inspired word of God. Except the problem is, they use their own version of the Bible. Now they will of course go to great lengths saying that it's the most accurate version that you can get, except the problem with that is, they revised it in more understandable modern English. It's commonly seen in grey. It was revised in 2013. I actually recall this revision being released. And the problem is you only need to go about 3 or 4 pages into this Bible before you start seeing some pretty big problems. In fact, problem number 1 comes up on page 3. Because if you read in that version of the Bible, and if you're speaking to a witness, you could even ask them to turn to their own page of the Bible, because within there it says that it's rendered from the original languages by the New World Bible Translation Committee. And of course on page 4 it is copyright 2013 to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania, aka it is for all intents and purposes, colloquially speaking, the Jehovah's Witness Bible. And as mentioned on page 3, it was rendered from the original languages by the New World Bible Translation Committee. And if, as I'm sure you are, you're curious who exactly these New World Bible Translation Committee members are, well, we don't actually know. They are anonymous. But if you go on jw.org, aka their official own channel of Jehovah's Witnesses, it says on their own website that these are a group of anointed Christians. That is a very particular thing within the witness beliefs, which means that they believe that they are in fact going to heaven, something which most witnesses do not believe, but this is a group of those anointed Christians appointed by the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. And this is to be a translation in, as they put it, modern English. And again, you can read all of that both within page 3 and 4 of that issue of the Bible, and of course on their own website. Now, none of this so far seems that complex or really that interesting. So what am I getting at? If you look back through the annals of history, one pretty consistent through line is that the governing body of these anointed witnesses, the ones who in effect give out the rules for all witnesses on earth and are located in the US, have said multiple times that they are not inspired of God. And there is where we run into an issue, at least as I see it, as possibly you will as well. And that is, on one hand, we have an organization which claims that the Bible itself is inspired of God and that all of their teachings come from said Bible. Except the problem is, as we've just seen from their own writings, it was commissioned in effect by them through a group of anonymous translators selected and approved by them out of their own ranks, if you will, of anointed Christians, who are, FYI, also not inspired of God and would never claim to be, and yet these uninspired people are actually claiming that they have the authority and the ability to translate this supposedly flawless word of God into a more understandable modern version of English. Except the problem is the meaning of language, especially when you translate it into multiple languages, which is something they're so proud of, it's always going to have things missed in translation no matter how good you are. And if you say that that's not the case, well then it begs the second question. Why translate it at all? In fact, I would argue if you're going to translate the Bible at all, you need to do it as a direct translation, which of course has been done in the past. I believe the Kingdom Interlinear, which is one which witnesses have also used. All of this is to say, witnesses will staunchly say that they'll use your own Bible. For example, if you have a problem with theirs, they'll show you in your own copy of the scriptures, is a thing that you'll often hear them say. Except the problem is, if it really is that easy to show someone in their own copy, be it a King James or whatever else, why have your own translation if that other version of the Bible is just as inspired of God? Why would you need your own spin on the language? So in other words, this group of not inspired people claim to have written a Bible which is inspired of God. Except that doesn't work, because as we've just established, factually speaking, you don't get to play both sides. Either the Bible is inspired, and it is by definition a direct translation of exactly what God said, or if you have put any kind of spin, any kind of modern language on it at all, which is guaranteed to have differences by definition, well then by definition it was written by someone who isn't inspired. Now many witnesses, as I said, will try to squirrel their way out of this by saying that they'll use your own Bible, etc. But it's just something to bear in mind, because considering that everything they say is supposedly based on it, it kind of falls down pretty quick when you put it up to any kind of actual scrutiny when it comes to being inspired or not, considering that that is, at the end of the day, the single most important thing about anything witnesses claim to teach.